The first 3.5-hour session was dominated by Lorenzo Colombo. Run under clear skies, speeds picked up throughout the session before the run in the final hour of the Italian invited by Renault Sport Racing. With a lap of 142.150s, he led from the Russian pair of Alexander Smolyer and Alexander Vartanian Race GP. Morning session. The longtime leader in the afternoon, Alexander Vartanian, was dislodged by Renault Sport Academy driver Christian Lundgaard MP Motorsport, Alexander Smolyer and Neil Verhagen. Despite Lorenzo Colombo answering back, the American put in a fast lap in 142.146s to lead from the Italian, and Richard Verschoor Joseph Kaufmann Racing at the conclusion of his session prematurely stopped by Pierre-Alexandre Jean JD Motorsport. Afternoon session combined quotes Neil Verhagen Tech 1 Racing 11th in the Formula Renault Eurocup, first in 142.146s. It's been a great day with a new team. I really felt like we made a lot of progress with my engineer during both sessions. I'm very happy where we ended up today. See you next year. Lorenzo Colombo JD Motorsport, third in the Italian F4 Championship, second in 142.150s. This was my first time in the Formula Renault car and we set the fastest time in the morning. I was really happy. This car may seem simple, but there is a lot to manage and master. I really like this car that has more power and aero than an F4 and you can brake later, and I never locked up compared to F4. I have to talk with my father, as I think the best step to do is to jump from F4 to Formula Renault in order to learn. Alexander Smolyer Tech 1 Racing, third in the SMP F4 NES and second in Spanish F4, third in 142.202s. It was a really good testing day. I still need to learn on new tires, as you only have 2 laps to set a flyer. With this car, you really start to feel the aerodynamics, especially at the entry of corners. We have a lot of grip and it's really good to feel. We'll see in the next 2 weeks if we will compete in the Formula Renault Eurocup in 2018. Oscar Piastri Arden Motorsport, second in British F4, 7th in 142.434s. I really like the Formula Renault, which is a totally different car compared to the F4 car. It has more power and a bit more downforce, so I'm not going to complain about that. The braking and downforce are the biggest challenges. Brake efficiency is a lot better, but the technique is a lot different. You have to have confidence in the car as you carry much more speed into the corners. While nothing is confirmed, there is a very strong possibility I will do the Eurocup next year. Victor Martins Race GP, French F4 Junior Champion, 10th in 142.522s. It was a pleasure to be invited here today by Renault Sport and I want to thank everyone. Compared to the F4, the power of the engine and the tire grip are the big differences, are the aerodynamics that makes it a lot of fun to drive in the corners. I hope to have the chance to compete in this championship next year. Christian Lundgaard MP Motorsport, champion SMP F4 NES and leader in Spanish F4, 13th in 142.680s. It's always quite challenging to drive a new car. This year was my first year in single-seaters, which was quite challenging. It was interesting to learn how the Formula Renault works. It is quite different from the F4 and it was easier than I thought it would be, even though it was hard to be quick. Despite my double program in F4, this car feels better on track. We have a lot of test days scheduled, so we will continue this learning process because I think the Eurocup is the goal for 2018. Felipe Drugovich Arden Motorsport, third in the 80AC Formel 4, 14th in 142.787s. My first tests in Formula Renault went well. With no prior experience with this car, we had to get to know it. The brakes are the most interesting aspect, which are very efficient. It also has 7 speeds, thus 1 more gear to shift up or down. The Formula Renault Eurocup is an option for next year. Arthur Rouger Fortec Motorsports, French F4 Champion, 18th in 143.072s. This was my first day in Formula Renault. This morning, I had good pace and was leading with the used tires. Adapting to fresh rubber was a little complicated, and I think that this aspect is the biggest thing to learn compared to French F4 where we had just 1 set of tires to manage per weekend. Here, you have to really get the most from your potential. My goal is to race in the Formula Renault Eurocup next year. Pierre-Alexandre Jean JD Motorsport, 4th in French F4, 20th in 143.128s. Even though I am still in the learning and setup phase with this car, I am rather satisfied with how my day went. The brakes, aerodynamics, the cornering speeds, the acceleration, absolutely all the aspects represent a big step forward compared to F4. It is a real pleasure to drive a Formula Renault. We are taking a serious look at doing this next year. Jamie Caroline Tech 1 Racing, British F4 champion 27th in 143.516s. This was my first Formula Renault test, as well as my first time on this circuit. The car is a lot of fun to drive, but you have to adapt to this car, which is very different and a lot faster than what I have driven before. There were no problems in the corners, but the brake pedal is much more softer and the brakes are much better. I gradually became more confident. I also liked the track, so I want to sincerely thank Renault Sport for the invitation. We could be back next year. Jury VIPs Joseph Kaufman Racing, ADAC Formel 4 champion 29th and 143.834s. This first day behind the wheel of a Formula Renault was rather interesting. I struggled a little to find a good driving position, but it is a fun and great car in an excellent category. The brakes are the hardest aspect to get used to as they are different to those of the F4. The steering is also very light, that allows for sliding the car more. It was a super experience offered by Renault Sport and I am grateful. Frederick Vesti Fortec Motorsport 2nd in Danish F4 and 7th in ADAC Formel 4 30th in 143.946s. I really enjoyed my first outing in Formula Renault. It is a really good car. It is a bit similar to the car used in German F4, but I like the fact it is more powerful and has more downforce. The tires are also a big step forward. We only have 2 laps to set a time compared to 5. I hope to be able to join this competitive championship next year. Charles Leong Mark Burdett Motorsport. Chinese F4 and Asian Formula Renault champion 31st in 144.098s. The Formula Renault is a proper race car, with which you can reach very high top speeds. It is an excellent car, but this track was hard to learn because of the traffic. We will see how it goes this winter, but I hope to be able to be in the Eurocup next year. Christian Rasmussen Mark Burdett Motorsport 3rd in Danish F4 32nd in 144.128s. Today I discovered both the Formula Renault and the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. It went well, except for my last run that wasn't very good in large part due to the traffic. Coming from F4, I really had a good time thanks to the aerodynamics and the power that can really be felt in the corners. I think it is a good step after F4 and I clearly want to race in the Eurocup next season. Daniel Luavf by Adrian Valles, winner of the Road to Champion in Asian Formula Renault 33rd in 144.229s. Although I have some experience with the Formula Renault, everything is different in Asia, the track surface and temperatures. After getting installed in the car this morning, I made clear progress in the afternoon in picking up tenths of a second here and there. The tires also allowed for improving the times even when they had a few laps on them. In looking at my pace today, I am thinking of joining the Eurocup or the NEC in 2018. Florian Venturi AVF by Adrian Valles 3rd in the French F4 Championship 36 Road in 145.284s. This was an enriching first day in the Formula Renault. I think I could have done better, but I was up against drivers with a lot more experience than me. The power is what sets it apart from an F4, but there is also more aerodynamic downforce and the tires have a little more grip. It is a car I really like. It is still too early to know if I will do it next year, but all track time is good to get.